Now pay attention to this and take note. There is a version of you that only exists when things go your way. Calm, confident, in control. But the moment something challenges you, someone disagrees, something fails, someone ignores you, that version disappears. And something else takes over. You feel it instantly. That tightness in your chest, that urge to defend yourself, to prove something, to react. That is not strength. That is your ego being exposed. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If your peace can be disturbed that easily, then it was never real. It was conditional, fragile, dependent on the world behaving the way you wanted. And that is exactly why you feel unstable, because you've built your inner state on outer conditions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "External things are not the problem. It's your assessment of them. Not what people say, not what happens. Your interpretation, your judgment. That's where your suffering begins." But most people don't see this. They think their emotions are justified. They think their reactions are necessary. They think their anger is power. But Stoicism cuts through that illusion instantly, because it asks one simple question. If you cannot control your reaction, what exactly are you in control of? Think about that, because this is where most people fail. They spend their lives trying to control everything around them. People, outcomes, perception, respect. But they never learn to control the one thing that actually matters: themselves. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Read that slowly. No man is free if he cannot control his own mind. So let me ask you something, and I want you to answer this honestly in the comments. What triggers you the most? Disrespect, rejection, being ignored, failure? Because whatever you just thought of, that's where your ego has control over you. That's your weak point. And life will keep hitting that point until you strengthen it. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because strengthening it doesn't mean avoiding it. It means facing it without reacting, without defending, without letting your emotions take over. And that feels unnatural at first, because your ego has been trained for years to react instantly, to protect your image, to avoid looking weak. But here's the paradox. The need to appear strong is what keeps you weak. Because real strength doesn't need to prove itself. Real strength is quiet, composed, unshaken. Seneca said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." And that includes freedom from needing validation, freedom from needing approval, freedom from needing to be seen a certain way. But your ego resists that, because your ego feeds on attention, on recognition, on being right. So it pushes you to react, to argue, to hold on to things that don't matter. And every time you follow it, you lose control. Not of the world, but of yourself. So let's break this illusion right now. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need everyone to understand you. And you definitely don't need to react to everything, because every reaction is a loss of control. Every emotional impulse you obey is a moment your ego wins. and your discipline loses. So here's the shift. Stoicism demands pause, not for seconds, for awareness. The next time something triggers you, don't respond immediately. Feel it, observe it, and ask yourself, why does this affect me? Not, why did they do this? Why does it affect you? Because that's where the real answer is, not in them, in you. And that's where your power is. Because you can't control them. But you can understand yourself. And once you understand yourself, you can change. Marcus Aurelius said, "You always own the option of having no opinion." Think about how powerful that is. You don't have to react. You don't have to engage. You don't have to let everything affect you. And once you realize that, you stop being controlled by the world. You become selective, intentional, disciplined. And that's when your mind becomes dangerous. Not in a loud way, but in a controlled way. Because now, nothing gets to you easily. Now imagine this version of yourself. Someone insults you, and you remain calm. Someone ignores you, and you remain focused. Something goes wrong, and you adapt without frustration. That's not weakness. That's mastery. And it's rare, because most people are addicted to reacting. They need drama. They need conflict. They need emotional stimulation. But you don't. Not if you're building something greater. Not if you're becoming someone stronger. So let me challenge you again. When was the last time you reacted and regretted it later? Think about that moment. What did it cost you? Your peace, your focus, your reputation? Now imagine if you had paused instead. If you had observed instead of reacting. Everything would be different. And that's the difference Stoicism creates. Not in theory. In real life. Moment by moment. Decision by decision. So here's your challenge. For the next 24 hours, do not react immediately to anything. Not messages, not comments, not situations. Pause. Even if it's just for a few seconds. Create space between stimulus and response. And in that space, choose your reaction consciously. Because that space is where your power lives. And the more you use it, the stronger you become. Now here's something deeper. Your ego wants control, but control over the world is impossible. So it creates frustration. But Stoicism gives you something better. Control over yourself. And that creates peace. Real peace. Not the kind that depends on everything going right, but the kind that exists no matter what happens. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." So don't just listen to this. Practice it, live it, test it, because that's the only way it becomes real. Now before you leave, I want you to make a decision. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now. Comment this below. I choose control over reaction. Because that's the shift. That's the moment you stop being controlled. And start becoming powerful. And if you're ready to take this even further, subscribe to Stoic Gateway. Because in the next video, we're going to break down how to become completely unaffected by people's opinions. And once you master that, you'll reach a level of freedom most people never experience. Don't miss it. Now share this video to who needs to hear this.